long time no talk about the we're reading and watching. I'm excited. Welcome to Stories I Ate This Summer.
Off the hook, but the phone never rang. Beast on the beats, no claws, no fangs.
You guys, I've read this many books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, no, it was 6. I've read 6 books. For somebody who felt like they read no books since their own book came out, that's a lot of books. I'm back in it. I'm back in the game. I watched a decent amount of movies, and I watched a decent amount of fucking TV because that's my go-to procrastination move. If something's due in 2 days, why don't I start Mare of Easttown? That sounds like a good idea.
Bring your crew, invite the whole gang.
Like I said, my book came out. Before we get started, I just gotta touch on that. Better Together, and that's one of the 6 books I read because I did read the audiobook. I needed to hear the entire audiobook for myself, and the narrators do a fantastic job. They're excellent. I tend to lean toward, like, read it with your eyes, but can't read it with your eyes. I mean, like, the audiobook is absolutely excellent. But yeah, my book is out. It's available wherever books are sold. The link to get it is in the description. It's about 2 sisters experiencing their quarter-life crisis, which is that existential dread that comes after college or after high school, depending on your trajectory. They are trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. They run into romance, and there's a dash of magic, and they don't have the best parents. I love it, but I wrote it. I hope you love it too. Link is in the description below. There's a lot to talk about. I haven't talked about any of the Disney shows since like the beginning of Wandavision. I never even said that I finished Wandavision, and obviously I did. But before we get into that, let's chat our July book explosion book of the month, The Lucky List by Rachael Lippincott. It's one of my fellow June 1st releases. It's written by one of the co-authors of 5 Feet Apart. Maybe you've heard of it. It was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list for like a gajillion million years. And there was a movie with Cole Sprouse that I watched and really, really enjoyed. Directed by Justin Baldini, and he's doing Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us adaptation, which is so exciting. I just went on a big tangent. So The Lucky List is our July book explosion book of the month. This month we're working with Simon & Schuster. It's a story about this girl who lives in this small town called Huckabee. She's about to go into her senior year. She's had a big falling out with her group of friends, and 3 years ago her mom passed, and she's been struggling since then with her identity and with the grief and with communicating about that grief with her father and the other people who share it. This summer, going into senior year, her dad's best friend moved back into town, and her dad's best friend has a daughter that's her age. Her name is Blake. Emily, the lead character who lost her mom, her father is selling their house because they don't need that big of a house. They're gonna move to someplace smaller, and so they have to pack everything up, and that means they have to pack up her mom's things. Her dad's best friend and his daughter come over to help them pack those things, and while they're packing up her mom's closet, Blake and Emily find this box of stuff from her mother's high school years, and in that box is this bucket list of things that she wants to do the summer before senior year. Her mother was this perfect student who was so concerned about what everyone else thought of her and getting all these different awards, and that summer is the summer she finally became herself. Like, her life finally started because she finally let go, and this bucket list helped her get there and helped her fall in love with the man who will be Emily's father. And so Emily finds this list, and Blake is there with her, and she was like, you know what, you should do this list this summer before your senior year, and maybe it'll help you feel connected to your mom. Blake helps Emily do this list, and as they're going through all these different things on the list, sparks start to fly between the two of them. Emily feels seen in a way that she hasn't in such a long time because everyone looks at her with this filter of sadness and expectations of who she is because they've known her since she's been a baby in this small town, and because of what's happened with her mother. It's so refreshing to have someone just see her for who she is right now, and it really allows her to open up and bond with Blake, and the way their relationship builds and becomes more than just friendship is so fun and so cute. Like, my favorite part of this book was Blake, and seeing Emily connect to her mom while she's tackling the different things on the list are the best moments and where this book really, really shines. The actual list wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be, but as they tackle each thing, these 2 young women have these really great moments together, and that's what makes what's happening on the list exciting. Like, one of the things on the list is buy a book in a different language, and I was like, what a boring bucket list thing. Then they get to go to this really cool bookstore, and these memories come up for Emily about when her mom used to take her to the bookstore, and it's so sweet. Every stop brings these really sweet, tender memories because she's with this new person who doesn't know anything about her. She can live and not try to fulfill what other people want her to be. You know how much I enjoy a coming of age, coming into yourself story. This Is Us. I have not talked about This Is Us in so long, but obviously I still watch it religiously. I think next season will be the final season. This was season 5. The writers got really creative in how they were framing the stories so that not too many actors had to be in the same place a lot of the time because of COVID. I just think they did such a great job with that situation in the show. I really enjoyed seeing them think outside the box and do these almost self-contained episodes about different aspects of different characters' lives. I do think this is the least strong season of the seasons just because it doesn't weave together the same way that the other seasons did, where it kind of crescendoed in this beautiful quilt of stories coming together. And there were a few episodes where I was just like, that wasn't as fantastic as the episode before. Like, Randall has this episode where he goes and learns about his mother, his birth mother. And it was so fucking beautiful. It was like a movie in itself. There were such gems in between episodes that kind of just like, that was sweet. I gave season 5 an A-. Those episodes that were fantastic really stand out. But the finale was definitely like the weakest finale yet because there wasn't this big build-up. There couldn't be this big punch at the end. So we'll see where the final season goes. I'm very excited. It's a spectacular show if you haven't watched it yet. Movie-wise, I think the first movie I watched during this chunk of year we're going through is the half of it. It was really heartwarming, and it was just a story you don't usually see get told in a movie. It was very calm and personal in a very different way. These two characters formed this really interesting relationship. It starts off with this line like, no one ends up where they want in this love triangle, so don't get excited, basically, and that really captivated me from the very beginning. I was like, oh wow, so no one's going to have a happy ending. But we end up with a different sort of happy ending. I can't say it was my favorite movie ever, but I really enjoyed the time that I spent watching it and how unexpected every outcome was. I'm gonna give the half of it an A- as well. I watched the Paris Hilton documentary. I listened to Armchair Expert. They were talking about it and I was like, I'm intrigued. I must watch this. I feel like they talked about the best parts of it on the podcast and like the rest of it just didn't tie together so beautifully. It didn't hit me as hard as like some of the other really great documentaries that have come out as of late. Like Demi Lovato had this 6-part documentary about her relapse, and boy, was that an emotional journey. Like, that gets an A. It's on YouTube if you haven't watched it yet. Paris Hilton's documentary, like, it was fascinating learning about Paris, but I feel like they could have done a better job with the story. They had to dig a little deeper or just stay with her longer to have a more full arc for the documentary. I didn't know any of this about her, and I'm really glad that I know now, but I feel like, again, we kind of scraped the surface instead of going as deep as we could have to feel like this documentary really went somewhere. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you wanted to feel like it has an arc. Like the Billie Eilish documentary, which was absolutely phenomenal. Oh my god. So I'm gonna give Paris' documentary a B-. Let's get to the next book I read, and that was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling that takes place in Shanghai with some sci-fi fantasy elements mixed in. There are these two rival gangs who are constantly fighting over territories in Shanghai, but when another outside political force seems to be coming in and trying to push both gangs out, they're forced to collaborate in different ways in order to rid the city of this new force trying to eliminate them all together. There's this plague that's running wild. People from each gang are dying left and right. I was expecting this to be really romantic because it's a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Even though it's called These Violent Delights, I just wanted a lot of romance in it when really it was a lot of violence. Vivid violence and gore. If that's not your thing, like, I don't know if you're going to love These Violent Delights. It kept irking me out. It was really well written, and I think the world is fascinating, but there wasn't much romance to like keep me wanting to keep going through all of these violent things that were happening. There's so much description of disgusting stuff. When they say these violent delights, like these are violent delights. It just didn't end up being my cup of tea. If you're looking for books that are light on romance, this is one for you, but I think we all know that that's my favorite part of most books. The gangs are so intense that it's really dangerous for them to show any affection for one another. The next movie I watched was Lovebirds on Netflix, and oh my gosh, I don't know, I was sleeping on this movie for so long. This is a comedy romance, and it was so good. I laughed my ass off watching this movie. Both lead actors are so funny. They have great chemistry. Oh my god, I just had the best time. A+ to Lovebirds. If you need a rom-com for the night, check it out. The next show that I watched over this period was The Flight Attendant with Kaylee Cuoco. The concept of this series was fascinating, but the execution of the show bothered me. Like, it got on my nerves so much that I couldn't finish it. The show has this format where we go into her head and we see her freaking out in her inner monologue, but it's just too much. They do it too much and it's too repetitive. It just started to grate on me every time we went in there. I'm like, we don't need this. Just keep on her regular life and go with her. We know what she's thinking. We've heard it 1,000 times. Like, we could hear it through dialogue. It was almost like when a book slaps you over the face with what's going on and tells you, like, this is what you should be thinking right now. This is what you should be learning. This is what's happening. This is exactly what we want you to get out of this. You can't say it, or else we don't get it out of it. That always bothers me when something assumes you are not paying enough attention or not smart enough to put things together yourself. We wouldn't be watching it if we didn't want to put it together ourselves. I watched all the way up to the last episode and didn't watch the last episode because I was so mad at it. I was like, what are you doing? I think this storyline could be told with half the amount of episodes that they were doing if they just only did the inner monologue when it was really needed and really packed a punch. I'm gonna give it a C-. I never talked about Nomadland, which I watched before this chunk of time. This was a very slow, calm, kind of free-form feeling film. I didn't expect to connect to it the way I did. It really heightened the wanderlust I had already been feeling during the quarantine and made me look at life in new ways, and it was shot beautifully. There were moments where I was like, wow, that really hit me. That really made me think. I love when a piece of art does that to me. It's a really lonely sort of film. I'm gonna give it an A-. It was a very profound, moving film. Okay, let's talk about the next book that I read. The first book I finally made it through after the release of my own book, right? I couldn't read anything. I was reading 3 books at once. This was one of them, and I kept going and didn't want to put it down. I think you've probably heard of People We Met on Vacation by Emily Henry. It's been everywhere. It's exactly the sort of rom-com that I love. The feelings I was getting while I was reading were like very reminiscent of the feelings I had while I was writing, again, but better. There's a lot of like the journey themes ran parallel for me in my mind, and those are like my favorite themes and journeys. I just had so much fun with it. It's about this woman and her best friend. They go on a summer trip together every year, and they haven't spoken for the last 2 years because something happened on their last trip and they had a falling out. The story is told in 2 different timelines, where we're in their current timeline where she's trying to reach out to him again and go on another summer trip. And then the other timeline starts when they met and they went on their first summer trip, and we go on all of their different summer trips and see how their relationship has built and evolved throughout the years and how they got to the point where they're at right now. It's a best friends to lovers story. It's all about that dialogue, which is, again, my favorite thing in books. It's just really those 2 characters too. Our lead character, Poppy, works for a travel magazine. She had a travel blog before she worked for the magazine. That's why they go on these trips every summer. By the end of this book, I was so in it with them. I was so emotional as I read the last few chapters. It was great. The next show I watched was Defending Jacob. And while it was captivating, it's a murder mystery. The actors were great. Mare from Downton Abbey plays the mom. Chris Evans plays the father. And then there's a kid. A kid is killed. Chris Evans is the public defender, or, oh, wow, it's been a while, so I forget exactly who he is, but he's like a lawyer. He has to be taken off the case because his kid becomes a suspect. It gets really dark and it's really depressing, and it just kind of gets more and more and more depressing and more upsetting. It ends on just a depressing, upsetting note. I thought it was going to be self-contained, but it almost leads you to believe, like, is there going to be a second season? But I don't really want a second season because it made me feel so sad and even the way it's shot, it's really dark. Cinematography, everything's dark. It's like the lights are off inside the house at all times. They're in the gym at one point at school. They're doing a graduation and the lights are all off. And the gym is just like the really sad and moody lighting from the windows off the side. And it's not like the windows are providing like bright light. It's like if you turn the lights off during the day. It's dark. There's no way the lights will be off during a graduation. Put them on. That started to annoy me because it's like normal circumstances where the lights would be on, they were off just to keep the mood really dark and gritty. So great performances, but depressing AF. Defending Jacob gets a B from me. Like, it was still really well put together. I wanted something more that I didn't get from it. Let's just transition right into from Defending Jacob to Mare of Easttown, which gave me everything I wanted. It's the same genre. There's a murder, it's a kid, and we need to figure out what the hell happened, who did it. Mare of Easttown has so much heart and so much warmth amongst all the darkness. There's so much character in it. There's so much character growth. Our lead has her own personal storyline alongside the murder mystery. And the accents are fascinating. I mean, I grew up in New Jersey, right near Pennsylvania, but I never experienced this accent. It's like very specific to a very specific area of Pennsylvania that I have not been to. And Kate Winslet kills it, man. The writing is great. Evan Peters is great. He was my favorite part of the show. When he came in, I just loved his character. Obviously, I loved Kate Winslet's character, and I loved their chemistry together. It's really well done. A+ to Mare of Easttown. Next, I watched Raya and the Last Dragon. I had high expectations for this, and it really just didn't meet them. It was upsetting. Like, it opens really strong and sets up this really cool world, but then it just got really muddled, and it started to feel like sections of the story were cut out. There was actually like a weird edit toward the end where definitely a whole scene was cut out. It felt like it was kind of butchered in the editing room. It was built as this big story. It got smaller and smaller and less clear as we went along. Like, they made all these cuts trying to make the story shorter, but then we lost a lot of character growth, and the pacing got very strange for me toward the end. And I didn't feel anything at the end. It was just like, I don't understand how we got here. Nothing felt earned. What happened? We set up this really cool concept. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for pop culture references in movies where it feels like natural for a pop culture reference. It feels like it's in our world. But there's some pop culture references that come out of the dragon's mouth. It's like, we're in this completely different realm of fantasy. This character is just spouting shit from our 2021 regular human Earth society. It doesn't make any sense. I could understand like a correlating pop culture joke about their world that's funny to us because they're making fun of something from our world that's in their world, but it wasn't like that. It was like they were just pulling pop culture shit from our world and popping it into their world and making believe it was fine. I'm gonna give that a C-. Cruella, starring Emma Stone. This was another one that had a really promising act 1, and then the journey that she went on wasn't as satisfying as I wanted it to be toward the end. Like, toward the end, I didn't really care about anything. And in the beginning, I thought it was just set up so well. I loved how we saw her grow up with these two guys and how they became a little family, and then she got evil really fast. Like, she put on this persona, and then she was like, this is me. I want to be this. And I know in the beginning it was kind of planted that she had this side of her, and her mom kind of coaxed the kindness out of her. But just, I don't know, it felt like she turned on a dime, and then there was no reference back to it. Like, she has a soul, and it kind of just disappears, and we don't bring it back, and she doesn't go super hard evil. It just feels like it fell a little flat. It wanted to take the trajectory of Joker, but it didn't go hard enough in any of the directions. It kind of went mellowly there. I'm gonna give it a C. I think Emma was great, but it just didn't make me feel anything. And that's what you want. You want to make me feel things. Like, when you watch Joker, you feel shit. You feel a lot of shit. Like, uncomfortable shit. But you feel it a lot. The last season of The Bold Type just aired. I do think it was probably its most wonky season. Last season was a little wonky, and this season was probably the least strong. I still love these characters, so I enjoyed watching every episode, but a lot of it felt rushed. They were kind of rushing for a happy ending for all of our characters. I think it was only like 6 episodes this final season, and when the last episode was airing, I was like, is this the last episode? Like, I didn't know, but I was like, it has to be, because they're like trying to wrap everyone up. Yeah, I'm gonna give this season like a B-. And while we're on the topic of final seasons, Younger had its final season, and it was so weird. I just felt like every episode felt really half-assed. This season felt very unrealistic to me. A lot of the decisions the characters were making felt out of character or out of the blue. A lot of the time they have these business ideas, and they're like, oh my god, this is an amazing idea, and then the idea just kind of feels obvious, or, you know, it doesn't feel as creative as they are saying it is, and then it takes off for them really quickly, and it just feels really unrealistic. But I can go along with it because the characters are so strong, and I like their journeys and the things that they're doing, but since the things that they were doing were also weird and out of character, it's just like, what's going on on? What is happening? I'm gonna give this season a C. Like, I didn't watch the final episode because I was like so bummed with how the season was so far. The Handmaid's Tale I thought was also on its last season, but I don't know, it left off in a way that makes you believe that there's another season. There were less episodes than usual. I feel like this is its least strong season, but it was still really intense and really emotional for me. It was still good, but usually Handmaid's Tale is like top tier great. We moved very slowly and there were only a few episodes. So that was the frustrating part of it. It was like, okay, we're gonna spend this whole episode doing this, but we only have so much time to get to this. And then it ended and we hadn't gotten to the complete this, so I think they're doing one more season. But I feel like come to a natural end with The Handmaid's Tale, and I think they should stop. I'm gonna give it B+ this season. Oh my god, the next book I have here, I just finished yesterday. I did the audiobook, which was absolutely top tier, phenomenal, fantastic. Oh my goodness. Taylor Jenkins Reid's audiobooks, from what I've experienced, have been like phenomenal. This has become my favorite Taylor Jenkins Reid novel. I've only read 3 of her books, so I can't say completely like this is my favorite of her books, but of the 3, Evelyn Hugo, Daisy Jones and the Six, and Malibu Rising, like this was my book first. I loved every moment of it. It's about these 4 siblings in Malibu, their lives and their parents' lives. Fuck McReva. There's 2 timelines going through. One timeline is a period of 24 hours where they throw this big rager. Every year, the Rivas throw this big party, and we're also seeing the timeline of their mother growing up and meeting their father, their relationship, and the kids growing up. It's so beautiful. It's so good. I cried. I laughed. I had all the feelings. There's this one scene that was just so beautiful with the surfboard that gave me the full spectrum of emotions while I was listening to it. I love a sibling story. This is such a fantastic sibling story. When it was over, I just wanted to read more. Like, I want to know how everyone's doing a year from now so much. I want to know what their next chapter is. It reminds me in the best way of This Is Us and how we see the effects of the parents in their lives and how it trickles into their kids' lives and how they will implement the things that they've learned. It's so good. It's such a beautiful, visceral setting and I love it so much. I miss it. I'm in a book mourning period in the Heights. In a year where there have been so many disappointing films, In the Heights shines so brightly. It was so good. The whole time, I just wanted to get up and dance. It was shot so well. The choreography was fantastic. Oh my god, what an experience it was. I couldn't contain my joy as I was watching it. I've never seen In the Heights on Broadway, and they brought it to life in such a beautiful way. Like, knowing Hamilton so well and Lynn's style from that, I mean, you can clearly see that Lynn wrote this musical. Wow! There's this beginning shot where you're looking at our lead character and he's looking through a window and you just see this entire choreographed routine in the reflection of the window. I was just so in awe, just radiating happiness as I watched it. I was like, this is so beautiful! This is so perfect! They're doing such a good job! Like, oh my god, I can't wait till the day where they make Hamilton into a film. I want the same people who like shot it, did the choreography to direct the Hamilton adaptation. It was just a showstopper from every direction. The song about the lottery ticket, damn! Oh! It was just so good! You were just in it with them, and you got to see the routine in such a way that made you feel a part of it, but you could also really take it in and appreciate how great the routine was. Just loved it so much. All the little nods to Hamilton in it gave me all the feelings. I got so excited when he picked up the phone. We'll Be Back was the waiting music. The cameo with Christopher Jackson and Lynn's role in the film, it just gave me so many happy feelings. A+ to In the Heights. Anthony Ramos killed it. Next, Dear Victor Season 2 came out on Hulu. I had no idea this was coming, and when it did come, I got so excited. It's so great, so heartwarming. I love everyone in it. It always just goes by so quickly. The season's just like a blur to me. I can't tell you exactly what happened. I just know I had a great time watching it. Oh yeah, they went into some other like mental health storylines this season. Victor and Benji's relationship went through some rocky parts, and there was a little bit of love triangle for me. I love the love triangle. Like, I love that new character. She's so great. great. Oh my god, what is his name? This is what I mean. Like, I watched it so quickly that it's just a blur. I know it was so much fun and I loved it and I had all the happy feelings while I was watching. I can't remember people's names as well because I watched it so fast amongst so many other things. Oh my gosh, I ship his neighbor upstairs and his sister so hard. I'm so excited about that storyline. So to sum up, Dear Victor is such a treat. I'm gonna give this season an A. This season, all the stuff with his parents, the journey that they went on was really hard to watch. But it was something that we just rarely see in TV shows. At least I've rarely seen that sort of journey happen amongst the parents of an LGBTQ character in any show. And it's something that happens in real life all the time. And to see it portrayed and to see Victor go through it and go through it with him really hit hard. Next! I watched Bo Burnham's special on Netflix, Inside. It was so excellent. I have never watched Bo Burnham. I mean, I've seen him in like Promising Young Woman and Parks and Rec, but I didn't know him. He got his start on YouTube. I used to hear about him all the time, but I didn't know who he was or what he did, and I've never watched his comedy specials before. I'm gonna go back and watch them now. He's the same age as I am and came up on YouTube like during the time where I started watching YouTube and then started watching videos. I just felt so connected to this special. It was almost like watching a really long YouTube video. It just felt so much more intimate, like it does when you're watching a YouTube video, because there was no audience there like in a normal special. It wasn't like we were watching a filmed performance. It was like we were watching a YouTube video where he watched him go through the quarantine and create these hilarious, sad, intense songs from everything that he was going through. They're so good. I just felt like so seen in so many weird ways. The turning 30 song, like I looked up his birthday because I was like, he must be born in August. Like he must be born around the same time. And we are, because it was like 6 months in. It just was really correlating to like journey of last year that I went on. When he started singing that turning 30 song, I was like, oh my god, I'm feeling this really hard. It was excellent. I highly recommend you watch it. I've been listening to the album of the songs ever since. They're so catchy and so fun and so accurate. What a time. What an experience. After it, I was like, everyone needs to watch this. It's so good. The internet song, White Women's Instagram, the comedy song right at the beginning, like every song, all eyes on every song. It's really, really great. The Jeffrey Bezos song comes into my head all the time. Next TV show that I watched was Loki. I really love the visual look of Loki. The director of Loki actually directed a lot of season 1 of Sex Education, and as soon as I saw her name, I was like, oh my god, no wonder I love the look and tone of this so much. The overall tone and feel of Loki is almost like Dirk Gently meets the Umbrella Academy. Those two fused together gives you Disney Plus's Loki. I really love the setup in the world of the TVA. Owen Wilson's character, Mobius, is great, and of course, Loki is always so much fun. I just feel like this series rushed to the end. The last 2 or 3 episodes just felt like we were running toward an end, and I wanted to live in the beginning a little bit more. Like, I wanted to live in, like, tracking these Lokis and, like, trying to fix the variants. In the beginning, we took our time setting up the world, and then it was like, okay, let's get to the end! I know there's gonna be a season 2, which is exciting. Like, I like it. I just don't love it. I loved like the first 3 episodes of the Disney Plus Marvel shows thus far. I feel like WandaVision is definitely my favorite. It was so weird and so wonderful, and everything that happened in it merged to such a great crescendo, and I feel like the pacing was fantastic. It got like faster and faster as we went along. By the time we got faster, it was like, we were so tired of going slow. With Loki, it was like we're going the perfect pace, and then we got really fast, really fast. At least that's what it felt like to me. And then we had Captain America and the Winter Soldier. I know they had to change the storyline because it was too relevant to COVID last year, and I think that really hurt it. It just felt wonky a lot of the time. I really loved the chemistry between Bucky and Falcon. That was the highlight of the show. Their back and forth was my favorite all the time. And the evil guy, he was great. The 3 of them together was magic, but the villains and evil Captain America just pissed me off. I loved everything with Sam and Bucky. Their relationship really made the show work even when the storyline felt like it was a little all over the place. Loki, I'm gonna give plus. WandaVision, A+, and Captain America and the Winter Soldier, B-. High School Musical, the musical, season 2 is on, and it feels so weird after seeing Olivia Rodrigo blow up with her album. That's so good, and like I just see her in a completely different light now, and it really feels like that album is about Ricky, I forgot forget the kid's name who plays Ricky, but it's so weird now watching them in High School Musical, the musical. High School Musical, the musical, the series has been weird since the beginning. Like, it thinks it's The Office, but like, it doesn't really work like The Office. It's a little all over the place, but it's cute. And the second season has been that way, but more all over the place feeling for me. There's no groundedness that's really keeping me watching anymore. Right now, I haven't finished it. I've watched like 5 episodes, and I have no yearning to like go back and keep watching because it doesn't feel like anything's happening of significance to me. Right now, I'm gonna give it like B-. I really liked it being High School Musical. I know they made fun of the idea that they were gonna do High School Musical 2 for season 2, but I wanted them to do High School Musical 2 for season 2. I feel like that's a lot of what makes it so fun is this background of them putting on the play of High School Musical, and they're paralleling those characters' journeys in weird ways. And now it's just Beauty and the Beast like doesn't have the same magic, and it's not as funny without them doing High School Musical 2. Like, that's hilarious. Maybe they'll do it next season. I watched A Quiet Place 2 yesterday. Had you on the edge of your seat. It wasn't the same magic as the first one where it was so quiet, so any sound was like it was just like the whole time. And I saw the plants early of, you know, what was gonna happen, and I had a few gripes here and there, but overall it's a good sequel. It's set up for one more movie, so I think it's gonna be a trifecta. Quiet Place. And last, right now I have one more episode in season 1 of Hacks on HBO. This show is so good. It's so funny and heartwarming and awkward in the best way. I love it. It's about a young writer. She's 25 and she's been working in LA. She tweets something that doesn't go over well and she loses her job. So she's desperate to find more work because she just bought a townhouse and she has to pay her mortgage and all this stuff. There's this older woman, comedian, Deborah Vance in Las Vegas, who's had a show for years and she's kind of on autopilot and not as many people are coming. She hasn't renewed her material in a long time, and the casino wants to take away her dates so that she doesn't do as many shows and like wean her off because she's been doing it for so long and they're not making as much money off of her anymore. He has the same agent as this writer in LA, and he tells the writer that he has a job opportunity for her to work for Deborah Vance if she goes out to Vegas and interviews with her and she can help her write new material. And Deborah Vance, when he tells her about it, she's like, I don't need a fucking writer. That's not what I want right now. So he doesn't tell her that he sent his other client out to meet with her, and then she gets there and interviews, and you know, they rub each other the wrong way, but she ends up hiring her despite the fact that she didn't want a writer, because as annoying as our lead character can be sometimes, she's charming and she's good at what she does. She's a good comedy writer. I'm just enjoying it so much. It's so good. I'm giving it an A+. I can't wait for more. I think it was nominated for a bunch of Emmys. I'm bummed. And those, my friends, were all of the stories I've ate the past couple of months. I'd love to hear your opinions on any of the things I talked about, or any stories that you ate that I should too, that I haven't tackled yet. Thank you so much for watching. My book, Better Together, is out now. Link is in the description. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok if you want to follow me there at Xteenmay. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.